Hey, happy South Direction. Happy South Direction. The South Direction, this is the direction of sexuality. This is the direction of activation. This is the direction of fire. So let's consider that for a moment. What do those three words have in common? Sexuality, activation, fire. In general, if I can speak for you for a moment, and please feel free to interject. Sexuality, I think, would be the word that most often gets misunderstood or misappropriated, I want to say. And that's because we as humans have a very specific definition of sexuality and what it means and how it shows up in our life. We have a lot of stories and a lot of baggage around our sexuality and our experiences with sexuality. A term like fire or activation is a little less so. It's a little less triggering, perhaps. So let's talk about that first, and then we will ultimately be able to get into how that relates or pertains to sexuality. We have a vernacular, we have a set of wording that speaks to this medicine wheel existence that we are not even aware of. We use it constantly, we use it every day in all sorts of circumstances, and we don't realize that it is actually a nod to the inherent wisdom that we still have in our beings and still have in ourselves of this medicine wheel style of living. So what does that mean? That means when we are activated, we say things like, I'm so fired up. We say things like, I was seeing red, I couldn't even think straight. Or I was heated, so it, or even, that was lit, that's this terminology right now that is hilarious to me, but that lit like to light a fire, to light a spark, that's lit, or, so fire, that's fire, those types of things. So, when we say that, we are speaking to a vibrational experience that is related to an elemental existence. And let's talk about those scenarios when we use that languaging. And ultimately, we're going to end up kind of putting them, for the sake of context and conversation, into categories of almost like positive or negative. What I want you to understand and what I want you to think about, pay attention to, and listen for, or be aware of when you are moving through your own experience during this entire medicine wheel process, is the unequivocal truth that there is no good or bad. We decide, we choose to assign a particular meaning to an experience, to a feeling, to a word even. That's why the word sexuality can be so charged often. And that in and of itself, charge. I use that word to describe charge. What does that mean? Is that an expression of the South Direction, of being fiery in your elemental existence? Because when something has a charge, what does that mean to you? So something to think about, something to consider. When you feel charged up, is it because you just got fired up, or you just got activated, or you just got in a fight with someone and you're all like fierce about it now? Are you charged up because you just had an amazing business meeting or an amazing conversation with your homegirl or with a family member that really inspired you and activated some thoughts and some excitement? Are you charged up because you just had some real good sex with somebody that you're feeling? Did you, get charged up and fulfilled or filled up because you're like turned on now? These are all variations and expressions of this fiery expression, this fire element. So, to go back to this idea of putting things in kind of positive or negative categories, while we may use that sometimes to help articulate an experience, what I really want you to know as you're taking this information in, and what I really want you to start training your brain to perceive things through, is this lens of there is no good or bad. It's just an expression of energy. It's a varied expression of energy, and that's what medicine wheel continues to teach us. So, to be fired up, to be activated, speaks to a threshold. It speaks to a tipping point where we're shifting our experience. We are shifting our perspective on something. So when we are angry, when we're having a conversation that gets us fired up, it's because the information that we are receiving is coming to us and it's creating a sense of resistance internally for us. This information is coming in and we don't like it. It doesn't feel good. There's something about it that we are a no to. Now, what I want to keep in mind here is that our no may not be a no to the information itself. It may be a no to the fact that it's challenging something that we don't want to let go of, right? So we get pissed off sometimes when people call us out. We get, jammed up and we get mad and we get defensive because somebody's speaking some truth to us that we don't want to hear. So we're a no to that truth. And what that really means is we are a no to the possible pain, feelings, etc. that might come up when we investigate that truth. Okay, so that's one experience. That's one expression of getting fired up, getting activated. We get charged up, fired up, activated from a more positive standpoint. We get excited when something that we are interested in comes our way. That could be a person, that could be a place, that could be a thing. The bottom line is we're still getting charged up. We're still getting turned on and made alive by this person, place, or thing. That is also an expression of the fire element. That is also an expression of sexuality. Now, in this connotation, it's more understandable if it's a person that we're like turned on, like we're into that person, we're feeling them, that is a more human and linear experience. Like we can all get on board with that particular definition of sexuality. But here's what I want to dig into a little bit more, and it will circle us back around to the more negative. I'm angry, I'm upset, this is challenging me, I'm fearful, etc., etc. What happens from a human standpoint when it comes to sex or sexuality? What is the I don't even know I'm going to ask this question. Let's just be real. Like, you're going to make a baby, right? Like that is the scientific outcome of intercourse between a man and a woman, of intercourse between masculine and feminine energy, between an egg and, and sperm. So it's like, what happens from that? And it's not that that's the only thing that sex is for, but it speaks to the underlying wisdom of sex equals new life. And when I say sex, I was very specific to say masculine and feminine energy as well as man and woman, because we're going to get into a lot of this masculine and feminine energy dance that goes on throughout this entire course of Medicine Wheel, right? And we continue to get into it more and more each time, each step, each month. So sex is not just about intercourse between humans. Sex is the coming together of masculine and feminine energy for the creation of new life. Now, that new life might be a human child. That new life might be a new thought system. That new life might be a creative project. That new life might be a boundary that is now being set and put into place. A new expression of some kind, a new energetic expression is what comes forward in the south direction when we are activated and when we are flexing our sexual energy. Sexual energy is, as I said, not just about intercourse. It's not just about people. Sexual energy can be generated by only one person and then brought forth into manifestation for very specific dreams, goals, desires, etc. That's a whole theory of work called sex magic. That's something that I teach. It's something that I speak to. It's something that if you're interested in, I'm happy to speak with you more about it. As always, any requests or information, you can email things to hello@oliviahalliday.com. You can go there. So know that anytime we are in the south direction and we are flexing our sexual energy, it's not just about intercourse. However, what needs to come forward with that conversation is we might have a bit of a jammed up relationship with our sexual energy, with our potential life force energy as it pertains to us as a creative being, if we have had unfortunate or unhealthy or disrespectful sexual experiences in the human realm up until this point. So what I mean very specifically with that is we might have a hard time creating and manifesting things in our life, and it's because we were molested as a child. So our unhealthy relationship with our sexual existence, our sexual experience, our boundaries, our physical experience, the energetics of that, the channel of that is not clean and it's not clear. So we sit here and struggle, like, why can't I make any money? Why can't I ever bring this to fruition? Like, why are my relationships all jammed up? Well, it's because our relationship with the life force energy of the entire universe, which is directly related to the South direction, to our sexual experience, is jammed up and messed up because of things that have gone on in our past, okay? So those are the types of things that, again, will necessitate more, individual one-on-one in-depth work. Whether it's me or someone else, doesn't matter. Just know that that's part of the possibility. And so working through this medicine wheel existence will help bring those things to the surface. And then you'll know like which breadcrumbs to follow, and you'll continue to understand, oh, I need to kind of work this thread a little bit more. Oh, I need to kind of, investigate this a little bit more. All of that is beautiful and great and incredible. So, activation, sexual energy, fire, South direction. It's important to be in that activation space. As I said earlier, it's a threshold, it's a tipping point of new possibility. If we play that tape all the way through of being in a negative, experience with sexuality, activation, we're getting in a fight with someone, or, certain times in our world and in our culture and in our lives, there's a lot of unrest. Sometimes there's this like upheaval that's going on, and we feel that charge in the air. We feel a lot of these fiery expressions. What's going on when that happens is we are being invited and afforded and given the possibility of something new. So it's a good thing. It's a good thing to feel angry. It's a good thing to feel mad. It's a good thing to be fired up about something. We just can't stay there. The whole notion of medicine wheel living and cyclical existence is that it's a complete movement. We're constantly cycling through this experience. We're cycling through this experience not just in a year, even though we're walking this program for a year. It's not just in a year, it's in a day. It's not just in a day, it's in an hour. It's not just in an hour, it's in an entire thought process, from like thought to word to external response to, the next level of receiving of whatever that external response is. We are cycling through medicine wheel existence constantly. And it is a constant cycle, and the teaching of that is movement. So when I say to you, it's okay to be angry, get fierce, allow yourself to receive that charged up, fiery energy. I say that because it matters. I say that because it's okay. Do not try to force yourself to not be upset about things. When we are upset about things, it is our body's way of letting us know, hey, we got to do something different here, okay? So get angry, but don't stay there. Let it motivate you. Let it be a catalyst to something different, to something new. And that's where we come back to this sexual energy as we, in the human form know it, because when we allow that activation and that sort of tumultuous thing to go on internally for us, it breaks things down. It opens things up. It's like an explosion. And think about a blacksmith, right? So a blacksmith actually, this is really incredible. I've taught medicine wheel forever, and this in this moment is coming through in a really beautiful way. So take a blacksmith, for example, and when they're forging a sword, right? They take the metal and they heat it up. They stick it in the fire to heat it up, to make it malleable, and then what do? They bang the crap out of it. Like they hammer it. They really put it under pressure so that it can form into the appropriate form, into the most desirable structure for its intended use, whether it's a sword or it's a shield or whatever it is. But a blacksmith molds metal through fire. And the interesting thing that came through that I had never really considered, but is such a beautiful example of medicine wheel, is that a sword, first of all, from a tarot perspective, tarot cards, I don't know if you are familiar with that or if anyone as you're watching, if that resonates with you, but the tarot has the 4 suits, right? Again, a nod to medicine wheel and the different elements, because each suit is related to a particular element. So a sword is the air element, and that's the east direction, because the suit of swords is about the mind. It's about how, like, we cut through, the bullshit. We cut through things. We slice through the chaos. So that's an air element thing. That's east direction. So if we're taking a sword, this blacksmith has this sword that it's trying to mold into a sword. It's this piece of metal that's trying to mold and shape into this really beautiful, sharp, incredible tool and device. So that's the new thing. That's the east direction thing. And then it does that by bringing it into the fire, into the south direction, to be transmuted, to be transformed in that fire, heating it up and then banging the crap out of it to form it, right? Under pressure. It's like diamonds are formed under pressure. And then what does it do? What does the blacksmith do to complete that, to finish that forming? It puts it in water. And the water is the west direction. That is the that is the water element that stops the process. It cools that fire, allows whatever needs to be completed. And then you have the north direction, which is earth. And it's like, after you've done that a couple of times, the fire, the water, the fire, water, then you have your sword. You have your completed form. You have your thing that has now become made into manifested fruition. It is what it is, and now the sword is ready for use. So it's really an incredible awareness of how we use these 4 elements for a really tangible thing. And that whole concept, we continue to get comfortable in, and we continue to understand as we move through this medicine wheel process, wherever you may start or wherever you have started with this. It takes a bit of time sometimes to get your grasp on, like, what is this elemental thing? What exactly is going on? How does this show up? But I promise you it will continue to show up. I promise you it will make sense to you. And in particular for the south direction, with this activation and this sexuality component, the most important thing for you to know is that it's okay to feel your feelings. It's okay to be turned on. It's okay to be activated. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to be fully in your aliveness, your alive space, because then in that very raw and real space, we get to decide what we like and what we don't like, what we want to keep and what we want to allow to go. And what I mean by that very specifically is when we are turned on or activated, positive or negative, we're being shown something. We are being shown our current state of existence. And when we are shown our current state of existence, when we are invited to look at things or hear some things or be witness to some things, we then get to decide if we like how those things are making us feel. And if we don't like how they're making us feel, that's how we know what we need to change. That's how we know what we need to do different. That's how we know where we need to go with something. And once we have that awareness, then the new life can form. Then the new thought process can begin to take shape. Then the healing can begin to occur. That's why sexuality is in the south direction. That's why activation in fire is so necessary and important. As women, we tend to be real uncomfortable with our sexuality, sexual energy, and this is why there's a whole body of work of sex magic. Sexual energy is one of the most potent and powerful energetic expressions because of the new life that can be created from it. And again, let me remind you, we're not talking about just human kids. I employ sexual energy to create this program. I employ sexual energy to manifest clients. I employ sexual energy to move myself through healing processes. But that has to come from a sense of activation and turn on, and again, aliveness. You know, turn on is another one of those words that we have very specifically associated with a sexual experience, an intercourse experience with another human, or maybe self-pleasure. And while those are beautiful and absolutely applicable to this, they're not the only thing. And we really end up limiting ourselves by thinking of it only in that one way. And Medicine Wheel is intended to help us expand our definitions in a lot of ways. And that goes back to the more fiery, angry concept. We get angry about things because we are experiencing our limit to our understanding or acceptance of something. We get defensive when someone calls us out or questions something because we're realizing that we are being shown something that doesn't feel good. And we can decide in that moment, well, does it not feel good because I actually disagree with you? And so the new life that needs to come forward is a stronger conviction of self? Or does it not feel good because you're talking about something that I've been trying to avoid and hide my whole life? And you're pointing it out. And so the new life that wants to come forward is the healing and the freedom that comes from moving through that painful thing. All of that is up to you ultimately to discern, but allowing it to move through this activation space and allowing yourself to feel turned on, to feel very sexually charged, again, masculine and feminine, sexually charged by something, is what will help continue to facilitate that process, you know, and then we end up moving into the West direction with it, and that will come, you know, we'll get into that in the coming months. So let's talk a little bit in this moment about that masculine feminine exchange, because it continues to be a component that matters. It continues to be very foundational in our understanding. Ultimately, in the long run, and this is what integration does, we have to learn something in a very incremental, sort of stair-stepping way before it integrates into just a oneness, into a complete experience where we're not segregating the individual step after step after step. So the dance of masculine and feminine is like that, because ultimately there is only one thing, and that is a very Taoist approach. That is a very Taoist teaching, is that there is only the one. But in order for us as humans, because we have this very separated mindset of like, you're over there and I'm right here, because we have this very separated mindset, our brains need this step-by-step conceptual understanding of two separate things, and for us to get comfortable in that before we are able to understand it and view it and experience it as just one complete thing. So all that being said, masculine and feminine energy, sexual energy, let's remember that all living things have both masculine and feminine energy. So while I am sitting here on my couch in a, what you might perceive as a human female body, I do, as a human, identify as female. I do identify as heterosexual. I do express myself in a traditionally feminine way. So there are all those physical qualities. And I also have masculine energy. And I express my masculine energy by expressing. Masculine energy is the outward expression. Feminine energy is the inward experience. Masculine energy is the outward expression. So yeah, I'm a woman. Yeah, I identify as female. And I also embody masculine energy in a myriad of ways. So that relates back to this sexuality component. And when I say things like I employ sexual energy to manifest clients and to move myself through healing processes, because I understand that the whole concept of masculine and feminine is doing this dance. So I do some inner work and then I come out with it, meaning I process with a friend or I talk to somebody or, speak about it out loud, for example. I do some more inner work. I realize I want to create something. And maybe what I want to create is just like dancing around my house because I need to move that energy. Or maybe what I want to create is an entire program and platform. And in order for me to do that, I have to go in, do some inner work, not only on myself, but also some like thinking and some like, what feels good? How do I know if this is in alignment for me? Like that self-assessment process. How do I know when it's not in alignment for me? All of that are varied expressions of activation. When I do that inner work, then I know what it is that I want to come out with. And that's the masculine feminine thing, is that if we don't take the time to be in our experience, in our body, in our physical response, then we don't know what it is we actually want to come out with. Too often these days, we don't spend enough time in the physical experience. And what I mean by that is in the inner experience. I say physical meaning like we don't take enough time to listen to our body. We feel something and we just pop off with it immediately. Now, the problem with that is we are so disconnected from our essence. We are so disconnected from our sense of oneness and our sense of connected to source that quite often the pop off comes from a very wounded place. Again, it's not a bad thing. It's okay to be upset. It's okay to be wounded. It's okay to have those experiences. The invitation for you when you are experiencing that is to ask yourself, do I want to feel this way? Do I want to continue to carry this? Do I like how I just behaved? Does it feel good to have said what I just said, etc., etc., etc.? And if the answer to that is no, then y'all, we got some work to do. Let's not pretend like we don't have work to do. We have work to do, and it's not a bad thing to have work to do. The whole point, maybe not the whole point, one of the important points of medicine wheel existence and living is to not feel bad about having work to do. The work of self is the only work that really we are doing. Everything else, the job that you have to pay your bills, the relationship that you're in, all these different things, those are all external manifestations that help us understand what is the inner work that we have to do. And we're all doing this. This is not a you thing. You're not broken. You're not, worse off than everyone else. We all have work to do. I have work to do. I continue to do inner work while I'm teaching about doing inner work. Like that's just the name of the game. So it's a good thing to have work to do, because if you choose to engage with it, that is you engaging with your life, with the essence of life. And consciously engaging in that is what makes it so sweet, is what makes it so beautiful, is what makes it possible to be in pain and still be in love. And that is a South direction teaching very much. It really hits home in the South direction, because we are activated, we are turned on. And when I say turned on, we're turned on because we're like turned on, we want to get down with that person we're feeling, or we're turned on because we are fucking feisty and fierce about something that we are not okay with, and everything else in between, absolutely everything else in between. So, how do we go about doing this? Well, what I will say is it is a practice. It can take a little bit of time because this is new. So again, depending upon where you are in your journey with Medicine Wheel, and even if you've done this a million times, it's always a good reminder to be patient and allow yourself to remain open to the new possibilities, to the learning that is available. And listen to your body. We know that we are turned on, activated, sexually charged because of the way we feel. And our feelings are so important. Man, talk about woundedness. That's all feelings. That is all completely in our emotional body. So we have to be connected to our feelings. We have to be connected to the emotional expression of our physical form. Excuse me. We have to be. It's the only way to begin to discern the truth. So the activity that I'm going to take you through in a little bit is going to speak directly to that physical experience, that physical response. And this is a really important thing for you to keep in mind, especially as we're in this south direction, especially as you may start noticing the amount of activation that is in your world. And that's something that I hope you either will begin to witness and become aware to, or have become aware to, that our external world follows this cyclical thing. So you'll start to notice certain trends and behavior patterns and experiences when we're in the east, when we're in the south, when we're in the west, when we're in the north, you know? So when we're in the south direction and we are desiring to tend to our body's physical responses, our feelings, this is what happens. Depending upon the woundedness, the work, whatever it is that we got going on, we will feel something. Something will happen out there. There will be a conversation. We'll meet a person. We'll read something in the news. The kids will do something. I mean, whatever it is, your daily life, coworker, family, you know, none of that, all of that. I mean, we will have something out there that we will witness and bring inside. It'll make us feel some type of way. It'll make us feel some type of emotion. And at that point, we take that sensory response, that feeling that our body has, and we bring it up into our mind. And based on our entire life of parents, cultural upbringing, religious beliefs, societal implications, just the general propaganda of life, we have a definition of what that feeling means. We have a definition of what it means to feel sad, feel angry, feel happy, feel turned on, feel joyous, feel hungry, feel, abandoned. We have stories that are attached to our emotional experiences. And it is from that storied place that we operate and then make moves from. So this activity, this south direction experience for the entire kind of 3 months of time that we're in it, is all about becoming more aware, feeling into what our bodily responses are, and then getting curious around whether or not we like those responses, or whether or not we like the beliefs we have about those responses. And that's where that new life possibility comes into play. So as you are going through this exercise, what I would love for you to do is be very attentive to your body and do the best you can to not have any judgment. Try not to go too far down the rabbit hole of why I said this, or why it makes me feel this, or how come I thought of that. Just observe. Just be available for what it is that your body has to say. Because our body has the most incredible intuitive wisdom. It's our mind that gets in the way. But that's okay, because going through medicine wheel is what helps to kind of decalcify the mind of its previous stories and previous belief systems and previous thought processes. So this activity is a decalcification exercise, and it is intended to help you connect, reconnect, strengthen your connection with your physical experience, with your physical responses, so that you can then get curious and open yourself up to the possibilities of newness once you decide whether or not you like what you're experiencing, okay? So ultimately this completes the teaching portion, the context portion of this month's direction, this piece of the south direction. Before we get into the activity, I would love it if you could take a breath, take a pause, go get something to write with if you don't already have it. If you have a journal that you've been using or would like to use, let's go grab that. Get into a space in your home or in your car or wherever you are, just a space where you can be with yourself, where you can be present and available for yourself. Somewhere quiet, so that you can really try and tune into and listen and hear the subtle whispers of your physical response, the subtle, intuitive, very limbic wisdom of your body. Take your time, whatever time you need. Go get what you need. If you need a cozy blanket, get that. If you need to get some more water, get that. But take a moment and just kind of push everything else out to the side and say, okay, I'm here for this, I'm here for me, I'm here for it. And whenever you are ready, you can click on the next video to get the exercise, and we'll walk through the details then, okay? Thank you for being here. As always, I love you.